Before we dive into today's episode on habits and how to actually stick to them and your next level vision, I want to let you know about our coaching open house. Head on over to Heather Chauvin, CHAUVIN.com/join. Our next open house happens to be February 23. And if you've been on the fence, listening to the podcast, listening to my book, reading my book, doing all the things, and you feel the pull or attraction to working with me in some capacity, head on over there, heatherchauvin.com/join. What does this have to do with habits? And what does this have to do with today's episode? I am all about how to actually stick to our habits and how to do this 10 minutes at a time. So in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about how to actually sustainably create change. If you're driving, you're going to want to listen to this again. You're going to want to listen, take pen and paper and take notes. I teach this to all of my clients, and the beauty of being inside of my mastery or mastery business coaching program, depending on your needs and where you're at, we do this. We break it down. Where do we focus when it comes to sales and marketing? If you're in the business program, where do we focus when it becomes parenting? Where do we focus when it becomes self-care? On the other side of everything that you want, that's just where the magic happens. But when we're so stuck on the process, or how do I get there? Or I can't, that's called a closed mindset. You're fixed. That's a fixed ass mindset. You don't have an open mindset. If your brain is not open and curious about, I wonder why I reacted like that. Interesting that I say I want this, but my actions are not actually aligned with what I want. That's what I talk about inside of the coaching open house. You get an opportunity to check out my work, try before you buy. You can also book a call with somebody on my team to just ask questions and learn more. So heatherchauvin.com/join. Why not? Right? Let's dive into today's episode on habits, how to stick to them 10 minutes at a time. It's 2023. You have goals, you have desires, and you may have a next level vision. Today, I'm going to talk about my 10-minute habit and the reality of becoming the version of you that you truly want to be, and how to actually, quote unquote, stick to our goals. This is something that I have had to learn years ago when I started my personal development journey. And so for those of you who are new to listening to me, welcome. You know who I am. I'm Heather Chauvin, the podcast host, Emotionally Uncomfortable, and the author of the book, Dying to Be a Good Mother. If you're familiar and you've listened to me before, then you know my story, but I'm going to give you a quick overview in case you don't, so that you can actually hear me when I talk about how I stuck to my goals and my vision, and my newest kind of love and tool that I created, which is my 10-minute habit, and how that's made my life and my business so much easier. So let's pull back the curtains. I started my business almost 10 years ago through the lens of conscious parenting. I became a mother at a young age. I was 18 years old, and now my 3 boys are 18, 13, and 10. So it's interesting. That's a whole other podcast conversation when your child becomes the exact same age that you were when you had a child. It kind of brings up all of your stuff, but I digress. The first time I looked at my son, I was a single parent. I was on government assistance, and I was in an incredibly toxic, abusive relationship that I had to leave. And I left that relationship out of a state of fear. But I also said to myself, don't become a statistic. But I said I didn't want to become a statistic, not because somebody was inspiring me, because I was absolutely terrified of failing at my core primal purpose, and I'm using air quotes with purpose, as a mother. I started my parenting career already a few steps below everybody else. No money, no education, barely out of high school, and pregnant and single. Fast forward, I used that drive inside of me, that part of me that was like, don't fail, don't become a statistic. And I used that part of me to push me to get a university education and become a social worker. Didn't have any social or any university credits in high school. And I found myself figuring out the system. And that was the first time when I had this, how can I attitude? How can I get a university education while being a single mother and figuring things out financially? That was my first aha moment of how can I? My brain started to look for opportunities on how can I make this happen? And I started applying for bursaries and scholarships. Like I said, I actually got accepted to university without actually taking any university courses in high school. Figure that one out. When there's a will, there is a way. Fast forward, this adrenaline, this cortisol that's pumping through my blood on a daily basis with my fear, with my, living my life through a state of fear of I don't want to fail. Never once did I ask myself, how do you want to feel? Fast forward, marriage, 2 more kids. There I am breastfeeding. My youngest was a year old. My health started to rapidly deteriorate, and I found myself diagnosed with a stage 4 cancer. If you're new here, I talk a lot about this inside of my book, Dying to Be a Good Mother, and you can definitely go back to older episodes in my podcast, Emotionally Uncomfortable. But I want you to hear me when I say this. Cancer taught me how to live. But previous to my diagnosis, people were patting me on the back and saying, you're super mom. Look at you. You're going for your dreams. But I felt like shit. I felt like I was dying. I was emotionally exhausted, mentally exhausted, physically exhausted. I was young. I was 27 at the time when I was diagnosed. And, people were like, Heather, suck it up, buttercup. I went to therapy. I went to my doctors, and the response that I received was, this is adulthood. Nobody ever taught me about emotional regulation. Nobody ever taught me how to hold a boundary. Nobody ever taught me about time and energy management. Nobody ever taught me how to get a sense of fulfillment and a sense of purpose. Nobody ever taught me about the courage to be yourself. Nobody ever taught me about that inner work. But there was something deep inside of me, that little voice that I talk about a lot, that said, not this, not this. So post-diagnosis, I asked myself, how do I want to feel? And alive kept coming to the surface. I want to feel alive. I want to feel energized. I want to feel strong. I want to feel proud of myself. I want to feel confident. I want to feel abundant. But the disconnect was I didn't actually know how to feel those things because my comfort zone was feeling fear, feeling overwhelmed, feeling disappointed, feeling neglected, feeling abandoned, feeling left out, feeling different. And oh boy, were those chips on my shoulder heavy to carry. But this time, fear being the driver, fear of dying and fear of losing it all when there is no stage 5 for the type of cancer that I had, and the tumors growing rapidly in my abdomen. This is how I discovered how to stick to my goals, my dreams, my next level vision without giving up. It had nothing to do with perfection. It had nothing to do with having a perfect strategy. It had everything to do with taking uncomfortable action and investing in myself. Right from the get-go, when I was diagnosed, I started investing in functional medicine. I swiped my credit card as fast as I could. We sold our little $3,000 camper trailer that we had. We cut back on all of the extra expenses. We sold everything in our house that was an additional luxury, and we cut back. We called our, cell phone companies and said, give us the basics, whatever you want to call it. I think we may have had cable at the time. I doubt we did, but if we did, we would have cut that off too. And it was like, what are our priorities? And my priority was to live. My priority was to live. But in that moment, I actually had to choose living instead of dying. And I want to explain this to you. So for those listening, I want you to understand that where your energy goes, your energy flows. Since my diagnosis, I have watched many people physically die, emotionally die, mentally, and spiritually. When their back was against the wall, they gave up. And I don't mean that they gave up and they threw in the towel, but you can tell when somebody is exhausted and they're done trying. You don't know how strong you are until you put yourself in an emotionally uncomfortable situation where you don't give yourself any back doors. Every day I started asking myself, how do you want to feel? And I started making a list of things that I thought would make me feel that way. So let me give you an example. I wanted to feel alive. I didn't want to feel dead inside. I didn't want to feel like a victim. I had to consciously shift my energy and attention on how I wanted to feel. So I wrote the list. I don't know what an alive person does because I've never felt alive. But what I think alive people do, people with fulfillment and happiness, they would get out of bed, they would take a shower, they would go for a walk, they would drink some water. That's all I had in me. I didn't have some big dreams. I didn't have like a big list of what aliveness was. Oh, they're going to travel the world and they're going to quit their job and they're going to do all these things and they're never going to yell again at their kids. That is not what my list was. My list was tangible action steps that were aligned with how I wanted to feel. Because like Danielle Laporte says in her book, Desire Map, it's not the thing you want, it's the feeling. I didn't want more money. I wanted to feel free. I didn't want a bigger house. I wanted more space. So when I started asking myself, Heather, what do you want? What do you desire? That's a journal prompt, by the way. Write it down. What do you want? What do you desire? Another one of my favorites is, wouldn't it be nice if? And as I started writing things out on that list, wouldn't it be nice if my husband could quit his job? We could travel more. Wouldn't it be nice if I survived? Wouldn't it be nice if I thrived? Wouldn't it be nice if my kids, I could homeschool them or hybrid school them? Wouldn't it be nice if we had enough money to give back? Wouldn't it be nice if we could invest in this? Wouldn't it be nice if we drove this car? Wouldn't it be nice if I had these types of clothes? Wouldn't it be nice? And on that list was not just for me, it was for my family. Because ladies, your next level vision is not just about you. I guarantee it. You are compassionate and you are a nurturer. Your next level vision is about other people too. So everybody was on this wouldn't it be nice list. And again, I started asking, what are those feelings that I'm after? And I started putting the feelings on my calendar. I want to feel alive. I want to feel energized. Awesome. Now brain dump a list. Now let's put those things on the calendar. But here's where the 10-minute habit comes into play. If you are a personal development junkie like me, you may have read the book Atomic Habits. And James Clear talks about the 2-minute rule. The 2-minute rule is breaking everything down to 2 minutes. And he's very science-based. But for me, I'm like, that's great. So I'm going to call it the 10-minute habit. And it's not going to be about breaking down a task to 2 minutes and just doing that and checking it off. The 10-minute habit is going to be about putting how you want to feel on your calendar. If I want to feel alive and I know writing makes me feel alive, I'm going to do that for 10 minutes a day. Boom, check the box when the writing is done. If I want to feel energized and the only energy that I have in my body or the amount of energy that I have is to go for a 10-minute walk, then I'm going to do the 10-minute walk. And if that day I decide I want to walk for an hour because I have more energy, well, guess what? I've checked that off my to-do list after 10 minutes. So the extra 50 minutes is bonus time. Also, somebody is blowing grass right outside this video, and this is real life, and I am not editing this. Oftentimes, we cannot edit life. And life gets very loud. Distraction comes up. The reason why I love the 10-minute habit is because how we do one thing is how we do everything. And as women, if we keep telling ourselves that our next level vision of how we want to feel in our parenting and how we want to feel at work and the amount of money that we want to make and all the things, if we truly look back and ask ourselves, what is stopping us? Children, timing, energy, career, weather, seasons. Let's throw other people in there, partners, all of that. If we pull it back even more, we put those people, time, money, and energy in our way to sabotage us from sticking to our goals. So how do you actually stick to a goal? Number 1, make a decision. Honestly, make a decision. Is this something that you want to prioritize this year? Is it an actual focus? Pick 1 to 3 areas of your life. Number 2, make a financial investment. Make a financial investment. Money is energy, and energy has influence and power. We may not want to believe that. We may not want to receive it, but I'm telling you right now, especially for women and working with women for the last decade, every single time someone's like, yes, 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 I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. And I'm like, awesome, it's time to commit. They know how much it is, but they stop. Have you ever done that? I actually just did that yesterday with a $20 ebook. $20. I could walk down the street and spend $20 on something else. Why was I resisting spending $20 on this ebook? Is it a priority for me? Is it a problem that I actually wanted to solve? Because I had to make a financial investment, I asked myself, am I committed to this? Is my pain big enough to actually want to solve this problem right now? Being a single mother, on government assistance, when there is a will, there is a way. And I truly believe in scholarships, and I also believe in making things affordable, but you have to have a growth mindset. If you show up as the victim and constantly tell the story that you can't afford it, it doesn't matter if someone gives you something for free, you are not going to value it because you don't value yourself. How to stick to a goal. Number one, make the commitment to which areas of your life you are going to commit to. Number two, make a financial commitment. Number three, choose to feel your feelings. Understand that when you decide to jump off the cliff and go parachuting or whatever the hell you would do off a cliff, hopefully you have a parachute on. Don't do it if you don't. Watch that process of fear turning into excitement. You have to be open to understand that fear is part of the process. It is not going to go away. It is your relationship to co-creating with it. Number four, accountability. Accountability. This is often a learning curve because sometimes you can have somebody literally sitting right next to you saying, did you do it? Did you do it? Did you do it? But based on your personality or where you're at and what season you're in, sure, you might actually follow through. But understanding that there can be codependency in accountability. But knowing that you are being held in a sacred space where people are holding you accountable, that is magic. And the last one is be honest with yourself. Know that, are you just busying yourself with personal development and making a new vision and goals, or are you actually all in? Because I see so many people listening to podcasts and reading books and doing all the things and getting high off personal development and, rah motivation, but there's no actual true transformation happening. Because when we create a true transformation, doing the work consistently 10 minutes at a time, the truth is what's actually happening is you are having an identity shift. You are becoming the type of person that does X, Y, Z. So when I go back to my, where I started and where I am now, it wasn't just the coaches or the investments that I made. It was my perseverance, the grit, and the courage that I had to keep showing up, even when I wanted to quit. So how do we stick to our habits? How do we stick to our next level vision? Be honest. Commit. Make a financial investment if you have to. And be in a container of space where you have accountability. And know that with consistency will come an identity shift. And you will become the type of person that has achieved their goals. And when that happens, that is how you gain confidence. And do it 10 minutes at a time. 10 minutes at a time. And how do we do that? Journal prompt. Wouldn't it be nice if? 5 minutes, write down everything that comes out. Step 2, ask yourself, what's the feeling that I'm after here? What's the feeling that I'm after here? Step 3, write down a list of things that you know will make you feel that way. Step 4, chunk those actions into 10-minute habits. Pick one or two and put them on your calendar and check them off. Do that consistently. You are going to see momentum. All right. Excited to hear from you.
I found Heather's podcast scrolling on Facebook one night, and she popped up, and I saw she had a podcast. I had just gotten a job where I was commuting, so I thought I'd download her podcast. And then I forgot about it until like 3 weeks later. I got in my car and I turned on my car, and her podcast just started playing over the Bluetooth. And what she was saying was exactly what I needed to hear that morning. So I started listening to her podcast, and I eventually started working with Heather. I knew I wanted change in my life. I knew I wanted to feel different in my life. And what an impact. My life has completely changed after working with Heather, and I feel completely different. And it has been the best change in my life. And now I am living the life that I want to live.